Another little live session down here. As you can see, it's very humid. I've been sweating my butt off all day. We hit ourselves a little hot spell here, and I shouldn't complain. There's some folks that are in way worse condition than us. So, a friend of mine, I was just talking to him on the phone. They had like a heat index of 112 or something crazy today. So, yeah, I'm not going to complain too much. I think we were only in that 100-degree mark with the humidity. So, there's been a lot of disinformation or misinformation out there. I don't know which way you want to call it, about non-selective grazing and high utilization, right? Which typically is coupled with ultra high density. So that's what we're going to talk tonight about on this little live session. I'm not going to get too far into it yet. No one's joined the live as of yet. It normally takes a few minutes. Hey, there we go. We got some. We're just fired up. Thanks for joining. So we're down here in the pasture tonight once again, and we're going to talk about the cattle a little bit and try to hopefully dispel some of this misinformation or disinformation that's out there about let's talk specifically about the Total Grazing Program. Okay, so there's a lot of love for it, and there's also a lot of hate for it. And that being said, what's happening is people aren't actually practicing it the way it's designed to be implemented running cattle. So what I want to do now, we're just going to go look at a few of these cattle, and I want to show you their body condition. We're going to show you the good, we're going to show you the bad, we're going to show you the ugly as I get attacked by a 747 horsefly. So I'm going to flip you around here. So these girls are just chilling. They're very full. They had a good day. We fed them up really good. This is a pretty good animal right here. This is 573. She's giving us a nice, beautiful calf. You can see her condition, all right? Pins and hooks not showing for anybody who doesn't know what pin bones and hooks are. So your hooks are up here and your pin bones are back there. Now that's part of the pelvis. And when a cow is, depending on the breed, right? That's very important to understand, people. Not all cows are built the same. She honestly has a little brindle going on in there, which is quite unique. Now let's look at this girl. This is 803. 803, she's, again, 573, fairly docile. 803, she's pretty darn docile. She's giving us a really beautiful brindle bull calf. Let's look at her condition. So, oh yeah, you can see a hook. Well, that's what you're gonna see, especially in a cow who's given birth, right? These are first year heifers. Now let's look at her width, her girth, her gut capacity. These are very important things when talking about cattle and the genetics that we're looking for in our cattle. Now, I'm gonna flip back around here. We're gonna walk up and go look at the rest of these animals one at a time. Here, this is probably a little better perspective. So here, let's turn you around again. I'm gonna get down at ground level. She has a really beautiful brindle bull calf that's been nursing on her. And she's just got absolutely outstanding condition. Look at her tail head, right? This is where you can really see body condition on a cow. And you're gonna look at that tail head, and the more body fat she has, the more bulbous that'll become. And as you can see, there's little fat deposits on each side, and she's got them right on the sides of her pins too. Not really defined, but pretty good, not bad. And this girl just she has got a gut on her for days. So I really like her. She'll definitely stay in the herd, long term, unless all of a sudden she starts going open on us, but I highly doubt it. She keeps great condition. She did come to us with a little bit of pink eye. You can still see a star in her eye. We treated him heavily. It's hot, so she's breathing a little hard right now. You can see that star in her eye. Well, that's scarring from pink eye. She's doing real good. The animals are getting more used to the selfie stick here that I'm running. They think it's a snake or something, I don't know. I'm gonna keep walking over here and let's go look at a few more of these girls. So, and the reason we're gonna look at their body condition first, this is really important to understand. For you folks that just joined us, here's the deal. So the Total Grazing Program is what we practice here. It's Too many people have focused heavily, and I mean heavily, on the non-selectivity of this system and the ultra high stocking densities. Now, are those bad things? No, they're really wonderful things if you implement them correctly. I am just as guilty of falling in love with those two things of this system as much as any guy. I've made many mistakes and I've let the condition on my animals slip, but I shouldn't have brought these glasses. If you're hyper vigilant and you really pay attention to your animals, they won't fall apart on you. You'll see them slip in condition, then you'll go, oh, I made a mistake. Ooh, let me correct that. Let's give them a little bit more forage. Let's be a little less, let's be a little more selective in their grazing nature. So they're gonna put on more condition, okay? So this 91? Nope, that's 559, okay. Flip around, let's look at her condition. So there's been some hate out there recently on the Total Grazing Program because there's some gentlemen out there that run their cattle really hard. And what I mean by that is that they are really taking a lot of forage, and which has its benefits. It's really good for your land, and it's really good for high yield and high production of your grasses. Okay, I don't know that anybody can sit here and tell me that this girl is skinny. She has great body condition. She's given us a beautiful calf. All of our cattle in here, all of them. We have a very small herd, but all of our cows bred last year and gave us some wonderful calves. Just beautiful animals. So 559, she's definitely a keeper. She's a great animal. She's a, I would say she's kind of almost a poster child of what a South Pole should look like. Now, mind you, these aren't true, real deal, full blood South Poles. These are 3/4 composite that have been referred to as a 3/4 South Pole. But I honestly don't believe that they have any of the bench tree genetic South Poles. It is just an absolute toad. She, I think, hold on folks, don't go away yet. Of course, my phone just decided to freeze up. There we go. This is a Red Angus Hereford, okay? Red Angus Hereford. Now you're gonna see with her, she doesn't have a very slick hair coat, but she has a nice hair coat. She's real pretty. Her skin, her eyes, her nose, her hair, it's very healthy. She has a sheen to her. She just has a longer hair coat. So she's not very well adapted to the heat that we have here comparatively to, say, our South Poles, 3/4 South Poles. Our bull right there, Bruno, he is a South Pole. He's all South Pole. And you can see how slick he is, short hair. And that really goes a long way for this heat that we deal with here. So anyway, 1903, she's a great mama cow, gave us a beautiful bull calf again. I got no complaints about her, other than she's the first one to shade up and start panting, okay? These are all things that are really important to understand and know about your genetics, okay? So we're gonna keep walking through here, but I'm gonna get into the meat of this conversation, all right? Your genetics are gonna completely dictate how you can graze, okay? You might think you have really good genetics, but I think you will be surprised to find out actually how poor your genetics are running in this system. That is something you need to work on. You cannot just take some commercial cow and run them in an ultra high density grazing type operation and expect them to thrive. They'll probably go open and lose a ton of condition, and that's not what we're looking for as cattlemen. You don't make any money if they're losing condition and go open. So right here, 36, she is, I would rank her as marginal. And the only reason I say that, her condition's pretty good, she's doing all right. She's doing fine. She just doesn't have much capacity, right? She's a narrower in the body. She's docile. All these animals are docile, so they get high marks for that. I can pet most of them. I can touch them all. Some of them, though, when I do touch them, they walk away. They're like, hey, buddy, no touchy. But, she's good looking. No complaints. Again, She gave us a great heifer calf. Her little calf, you know, my girls, geez, they name everything. Her name's Curly. Here we go. This is 283. We call her tagless also, hence she somehow lost her tag. So now she's known as tagless, and she's got a giant horsefly on her. Again, great body condition, beautiful animal. She's a little long in the leg, maybe a little longer than I'd like to see. But that being said, you know, whatever. She keeps great condition, so she's got good condition. Now, this is what is really important. And you're going to look at these cattle right now, and you're going to, if you've been watching some other folks that are practicing the Total Grazing Program, some of their animals might not be as fleshy as these. Well, there's a reason. I'm not running these cattle that hard anymore. So earlier in the year, when we first really started getting into it and doing high utilization, well, the forage quality was much, much higher. You know, it had a lot more protein in it. So we could take more of it without affecting their condition. The Total Grazing Program is, the way I look at it is, they're all goals that we set, that we strive to reach, but most likely you'll fall short of them because your genetics will dictate how hard you can push your cattle. And so it is so imperative. I would say the number one thing, maybe with the Total Grazing Program, should be in big, bold, flashing letters, and Jim talks about this and he stresses it, but for some reason people's ears aren't too open. Animal condition and performance is first and foremost. That's it. Everything else is secondary to that. If you have animals that go open because you're running them too hard, well, you just shot yourself in the foot. So now you got two options. You have to baby that animal back. You have to, and keep her around. Hopefully she'll breed back for you next season. And so now you've got basically a freeloader on your ranch, or you sell her. Well, you can blame the animal and you can say, well, you know, she doesn't conform to my grazing program, so she's got to go. That's cool, that's fine. If you got the animals to do that and you can afford to do it, good, great. I can't. I need as many mouths and as many hooves on the ground as I can get because we are terribly, terribly understocked. The reason is because we are implementing the Total Grazing Program, which allows us to grow a ton more grass. And I mean a bunch, like 5 times as much grass. Well, that's good and great and all, but don't forget, when you are growing all that grass and you are stockpiling copious amounts of grass and you're letting it get really mature, you're also sacrificing the quality of the grass. So it's quantity for quality, right? So again, you have two options. You can, if your animal's condition starts to suffer on the Total Grazing Program, ultra high density grazing, high utilization grazing, whatever you want to call it. If the condition starts suffering, you got two options. Graze them more selectively, meaning give them more grass, let them be pickier, or supplement them some protein. Now, there's going to be some out there that are going to really take that and just start screaming, you're going to lose all your profits if you do that. That's possible, I guess. I guess someone could say that. I'm not really sure how they're running their numbers and how they're figuring that out and how sharp their pencil is, but I can tell you this because I experimented with it earlier this year. And the reason I did that is because I needed to know exactly how these cattle would respond to the protein supplement I gave them. Now, I'm not giving them urea tubs. I'm not doing tubs. I'm just not going to do that. So what I gave them this first test was, it was soybean meal. Okay, cottonseed meal, soybean meal, there's a few others out there. Those are probably most readily available. The soy is more affordable than some of the others. And so what I did is I started noticing the cattle, if you watch them, they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you if your forage isn't good enough. You don't have to get a refractometer out there. You don't have to do tissue samples. You don't have to do all this stuff unless you want to. What you need to do is watch your animal. As soon as their manure starts getting really loose, right, you know they got enough protein. If it starts stacking up like cinnamon rolls or getting thick and there's chunks of fiber in there you can visibly see with your eye easily, you know, greater than 1/4 of an inch, then you know that you're low in protein. Okay. Another thing that you'll notice if you spend enough time with your animals and you're really aware, they'll tell you by their habit. They will be grazing and then they just kind of stop. And they're like, you know, yeah, you can say, oh, they're full, they're content. But I'll tell you what, they almost never just stop grazing when it's beautiful, lush, high zoot rocket fuel. They'll keep eating. What'll end up happening, they'll graze, then they'll ruminate. Then they'll come back out to that grass and they'll stare at it. They'll just be like, come on, buddy, give me something else. And if you make them eat the rest of that through that next rumination cycle, right, or there's not just enough total forage, they're going to lose condition. So really pay attention to your animals and make sure they're not suffering because your goals don't line up with the genetics or the ability of your animals. That's all it really boils down to. So, you know, I know some guys, they're more aggressive at it than I am. And that's cool. I was doing that earlier, but remember, like I said, my forage quality was much, much better because we were closer to spring. So as the grass ages, you're gonna start losing protein and energy. The Brix level of the plant is gonna go down and the protein also, fiber is gonna go up. So it, you know, their rumen requires a certain amount, between 8 and 10% of protein to properly ruminate so they can extract the nutrients from that plant. Remember, it's the protein and the energy that is allowing the microbes to have in their gut, the microflora, to do its magic, right? I didn't even say the right word. The microbiome, excuse me. So in the rumen, there's billions and billions of little tiny organisms, and that's what's actually breaking that down for you, right? So think of their gut as like I've said this before, it's like a compost pile, right? They got a big compost pile in their gut. It creates a ton of heat. So it's just it's a little disheartening to see some of these guys taking such, you know, hard licks from people. Oh, your cattle look like they're dying and all this stuff. Remember, you need to know what you're looking at too. Not all breeds are built the same. So there's cattle that don't flesh well. They do not hold body condition. It's just inherent to them. So some that come to mind right away are going to be your dairy breeds. Just about any dairy cow, right? They're kind of bony and hippie, and you can see ribs, and they produce a ton of milk when they're lactating, and they require a massive amount of input. So you got to grain them to get a lot of milk production. But they kind of always look bony, right? Another one is a corriente. Those things are just hippie at best. You know, you can feed them out hard, give them the best quality forage, alfalfa and all that stuff, and they just still they're gonna look skinnier and thinner than these beef breeds. So, you know, if people out there are gonna be hypercritical and experts on the matter, make sure you actually are an expert, you know, before you start saying stuff. So it's really good to take and know your breeds and what they're capable of before you take and jump to conclusions. So let's see here. Who we got here? Is this 991? Looks like 991. Yeah, it is. Let's look at her. All right. 991. She's pretty good. You know, she's standing funny right now, so her scapula is rolled. So it's kind of poking out. Take a step, girl. Come on. Come on. There you go. There you go. Now you can get her dimensions a little better. Her top line's not great. You know, I can see just a little bump of vertebrae there. Her hooks are showing a little more in her pins than I would like. You know, she's got a little bit of fat right there, but not much. She's thinner than I would like, but she's starting to put better condition on. And that's because I'm allowing them to be more selective. I gave them a big old paddock. And so they're getting to cherry pick it. And so their condition is going to continue to improve. While we're here, let's look at some of these calves. Now, calves, you know, that's cheating. Anybody can get a plump looking calf, really. You know, it really boils down to your daily gain. But, you know, he's only eating for one, right? Where she's eating for two. And a lot of folks here also don't understand this, that you would think, you know, I mean, I guess I would think, or would have thought, that a pregnant cow would have a really high nutritional requirement. They actually don't. They require more than a dry or an open cow, meaning not pregnant. But the one that requires the most nutrition is a lactating animal, right? Because they have to produce that butter fat. And that is a huge nutritional requirement or demand. So calves, they always look good, right? First year heifers, they look good. It's when they start lactating and they got that calf sucking on them and pulling that nutrition out of them, that nutrient. That's when the cream rises to the top. You're gonna find out really fast which cattle in your herd are good and which ones are bad. What I mean by that is, oh boy, these things just eat me up. When you push your cattle hard, push, and you'll hear that term in the cattle world, that means grazing them on marginal forage, okay? You're gonna see the ones real quick that have good genetics and the ones that don't. They're gonna get skinny, the ones that are bad, and the ones that are good are gonna stay and keep good condition. So it's a really easy way to identify your best animals, is run them hard, make them non-selective for a little while. You might not wanna do it just pre-calving season or pre-breeding season because you might end up with some open cows. But see, so I'm gonna rewind. Here several months back, we were coming up on breeding season and I was still running my cattle hard. And so why would a guy do that? Why would I choose to do that? Well, I chose to do that because I need to know how my cattle can handle it, how good their genetics are. Are they very fertile or are they not very fertile? So inherent body condition and fertility are the things that we should be selecting for. Not color, not all these other things, even size, right? Although typically a smaller animal is synonymous with better body condition because they have a higher relative feed intake. The smaller the animal, the more they eat per pound body weight. So naturally they're gonna flesh better. So I was pushing them hard, and the reason for it is let's say down the road in a handful of years, I'm really well stocked. Right now I'm really understocked. Down the road, 3, 4, 5 years, and we're highly stocked and we're running just on the razor edge of our total carrying capacity of our land. What happens if we hit a nasty drought? What happens if we have some environmental issue? There's a million variables that can happen. I need to know what I can get away with these animals and not break the bank just dumping feed into them. So that's why I did it. Right now, I don't have a very big herd, so if I end up with some open animals, well, it doesn't hurt me that bad. I'll mop it up, I'm gonna leave the bull in longer, and we'll know if I pushed them too hard because they'll calve really late, right? They'll be a couple months late out of the calving season than they should have, and boom, now I know, I pushed them too hard, and or that animal just doesn't work in our grazing system. So rewind back to the protein talk, supplementation. So there's this idea that if you feed anything to your cattle, that you're gonna go broke. If you give them any sort of a crutch whatsoever, you're gonna go bankrupt and it's not gonna be any good. Well, okay, so let's lay that to rest, at least in my experience. So I said that I fed them a little bit of protein. I wanted to see how they responded. So they did exactly what I said. They grazed, then they stared at the grass, and I knew that grass didn't have enough protein in it for them to continue keeping body condition, and I wasn't gonna force them to eat that stuff. So what did I do? I started out by feeding them 1 pound of protein per animal, protein supplement. It was actually just, like I said, soy meal. And then I skipped a day and then did it again. So theoretically speaking, they were only getting 1/2 pound per day on average. And I noticed a little uptick in their consumption. I was like, oh, okay. So then I upped it the following few days and I experimented with a little higher regimen and I skipped days again. I gave them 2 pounds. So they ended up having on average 1 pound each day. And what I noticed was actually quite shocking. They consumed a massive amount of extra forage out of that same quality and same area pasture when I had them in that break or that paddock. And so I ran the math on it, and it's really easy to figure your consumption of your animals because you know your basic body weight of your animals, and you know exactly, or give or take a few percent of their dry matter forage intake on a daily. And so you can run the math on it really easy. So what I determined is that for $5.50 of protein for all the animals you see here, which is 25 units, $5.50 a day, I was able to consume roughly 800 extra pounds of forage. and they kept good body condition. Their manure looked right, their gut fill was good, their hydration was right, they were round, and they were round like that, you know, like a football. So, I don't know if anybody out there keeps animals, maybe you should consider it, because basically I got a round bale of hay for $5.50. That's the way I look at it. You know, so now did I need to do that? No, I didn't need to do that. I have so much freaking grass here. I got a year and a half of grass in front of me. I'm not going to even be able to eat it all off in the time frame that I need to. So it was purely out of experimentation to get a little bit more fundamental understanding of how they're going to react. So let's look at a couple more of these girls. I'm going to show you the worst animal in the herd. All right. Now, here she is. This is 529. And she's a sweet little thing, and you know, I kind of feel bad for her because she's just a damn runt. Now, I know you might look at her right now and go, well, she don't look too bad. You know, she's all right. Well, she does look all right now. But I'll tell you, here just very recently, she's put on a lot of condition. She looked terrible. She's just not going to make it in this program. So I got two options with her. I have to make her my special needs cow, the whole herd, to meet her nutritional requirements. So I have to change my whole grazing operation because I'm not going to take her and pull her out by herself and let her do her own thing. Or I cull her. Those are my options, right? Or really, actually, the third option is that I don't really care at the moment because, again, I have so much grass. So really, I'm in the phase of really learning this system. And I have a huge, let's say, safety net of stockpile forage ahead of us. So if I screw up a little here, there, whatever, I just let them be more selective and move them faster. And it's no problem. Now, does that mean that the calf that she gives us will make it in our program? I don't know. I guess time will tell. He's going to get a chance. We're going to probably steer him and eat him anyway. But it'll be interesting to see if it really makes a difference. I probably won't be able to tell because it's a steer and we'll never, you know, obviously not going to lactate and have that nutritional requirement. But, you know, our bull is good. He's a good bull. He really is. He's given us some beautiful, beautiful calves. And so I guess the thought is, well, let's say she gave us a heifer. Would that heifer have enough influence from her daddy, right, to make a profound difference in her? I think it will have some for sure, you know, but she might pass her whole load of genetics on right into that heifer, and we got another hard keeper. I don't know. It doesn't, but again, it doesn't really matter because we're in a unique situation where we just don't have enough cows. So that's a really awesome way to be able to learn this system. Now, the interesting thing when I say that is when you start practicing the total grazing system, if you're not already ridiculously overstocked and just feeding copious amounts of hay to your animals all the time, you'll be probably most likely in a similar situation to me where you're going to have more grass than you're not going to know what to do with. And as long as you don't just run right out and go buy a whole bunch of animals and increase your stocking rate, I think you're just going to have a lot of extra grass. So again, it allows you to kind of learn the system in the beginning, again, with that safety net. If, you know, we get a question a lot of times about, well, what happens if you hit a drought and you don't get recovery on the side of your farm that you're supposed to be actively grazing? Well, oh well, whatever. And we just can go put them on stockpile and they can go eat on that until it does recover. And then someone might say, well, what if it's, you know, the nutrition on that's going to be really low and all this? Okay, well, we can let them be selective, or we can supplement them some protein at $5.50 a day. You know, it works easy, guys. It really does. At first, learning this system, because I had to kind of unlearn everything else that I'd already learned to a certain extent. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of principles that still apply. But it took me a while to wrap my head around it, and it's a lot of information to digest. I don't know that I consider myself the smartest guy. So maybe some of you will just be like, oh, no problem. That was super easy to learn. But, you know, it's it's a lot of information to digest. It really is. You know, these guys are like rocket scientists that teach this stuff, honestly, and I'm just some blue collar idiot here. So let's look at a few more of these girls. But first, I'm going to look at our comments. I noticed there was just kind of a lot of jibber jabber comments. So let's see. Chip and Julie, hey guys, thanks for being here. Let's see. I'm going to flip around so you don't have to look at me. Just show you these cows while I read through some of these. Their milk. You know what? Actually, we haven't taken any milk off these cows yet, but I do have one. Her name is 970. I know you're like, wait, her name? Yeah, when you know them as a number, it's their name, right? It's no different. That's our bull. She actually creates a ridiculous amount of milk. She's a tiny little thing, and she's ridiculously docile. So we might put her in a stanchion and do a little milking and see how it goes. Supposedly these guys have really high butterfat content, so that'll be interesting. We'll just thief a little. Okay, while we're talking about good cow, bad cow, here you go. This is 506. This is the best cow in the herd, right here. And by a long shot, and I'll tell you why. She's the best cow in the herd because when I was pushing the cattle earlier this year, and I mean hard, right? I was making them really earn their keep. She looked about like that the whole time. Have the happy lines, very round, very smooth, very slick, shiny coat, just happy, healthy. She went like, she just, no problems, no problems. So, you know, they say your best bulls will come from your best cows. Well, I totally believe that. And I'm gonna show you her bull calf. And we're gonna be keeping him back. So we got our first homegrown bull that we'll be putting into the herd. And some people say, oh, wait, you can't do that. They're related. No, you can. You just can't let him breed his mom, right? You don't want that to happen. And let's not forget what happens in nature, folks. You think there's a cattleman out there splitting animals and weaning them off, and oh no, here he is in all his glory. Look at him. He's a beaut. He really is. He's just, he's got a little brindling, you can see in him. It's kind of interesting. I don't even know where that came from because she doesn't have it and Bruno doesn't have it, but there's a gene in there somewhere. But he's just, hey, look at me, little buddy. There we go. See that wide forehead, wide set eyes? You gonna come say hi to the camera? Oh, don't lick it. You're gonna get all gooey. Oh, was that too much? There we go. Hey, buddy. Again, docility. Docility. That is, I'll tell you what. If there was ever a trait about cattle, in my opinion, that is completely underrated and underappreciated, it's docility. When you have a bull that you can touch, you can pet, he's like a dog, and all your cattle are like that too. When they see you, they don't go and try and jump a fence. Boy, that's worth its weight in gold. So, docile animals. He's not really super fond of his butt being touched normally. He's like, I don't think so. But loves his head rubbed, and he will lick every drop of sweat off of my arms. He loves it. I'm like his personal salt lick. Let's see, I'm gonna scroll down here. I know I gave you guys like a big old wad of information real quick. We are in the southern Missouri Ozarks. So just about 13 miles as the crow flies of the Arkansas border. So I like to consider it the northernmost part of the South. The culture here, the weather here, it's the South, even though some people would say geographically it's the Midwest, but no, it's the South. We love it. So let's go look at Bruno again here. If I can get a good look at him. You're gonna see what he's choosing to eat. You know, people might see animals and, you know, some of this kind of sticky, twiggy, there's a little bit of brush in here. Say, oh, that's no good. But look what they're choosing to eat, guys. That's tick seed, ragweed, a myriad of other things. There's some goldenrod that they chewed on. What else we got in here? We got some vines. We got sawbriar. He's currently nibbling on some of that and a plum. They just, you know, they have a lot of diversity in here. Sericea lespedeza, there's a little bit of that in here. These ones right here currently haven't been eaten, but they'll take about, that much off the tip. And they say it's a natural wormer because of the very high tannins in it. So I don't mind, you know, a little bit of that, just more diversity. It's a legume, so it is a nitrogen fixer. He thinks I'm gonna come swat flies off him. Anytime he's got a horse fly on him and I get near him, he wants to take off because I just can't not smash those damn horse flies. They make me so mad. Look at this steer. He's getting bit up. Big old horse flies. Watch out, 1903. You're blocking my view, girl. Here we go. There we go. Hey, buddy. What are you doing? And he does not like the selfie stick. He just doesn't. He's a 3-year-old. He's got great condition. And he's docile. Very docile. You can sit on him. I've never sat on him when he's on his feet. But when he's bedded down, I'll go sit on him and rub him down and give him some love. But you can see all the happy lines on him. All these horizontal lines. That is supposedly an indicator of really good hormonal balance. Let's see. Oh, man, it is hot out here. Yeah, you're in Oklahoma, all right. What part of Oklahoma? Docility, a known trait for the breed? Yes. These are South Pole, at least a variation of them. My bull he is the real deal, South Pole, and these girls are 3/4. It's complicated. They were bred using not the same foundational stock as the South Pole, but the same breeds. So, in theory, they're South Poles. But again, they're still considered a cross. Some would say, oh, well, South Poles are a cross. Well, of course they are. All cattle are a cross of something. Oh, let's look at this guy. Oh, yeah. Here's 803's bull calf. Remember that brindle with the big gut on her? Well, here he is. Look at the gut on him. I mean, he's got some depth. He's just beautiful, that brindle. Now, again, I would never keep an animal just because of their color, but he sure is striking. Get out of the bushes, buddy. Let's show everybody. There we go. Yeah, I mean, he's got a gut on him. Just beautiful. So those are things that we're looking for, right? If you don't know anything about so-called grass genetics. Oh, let's see here. Hold on a second. I got a question. Never lived on a homestead before, but wants to, and wants to find a man who wants to as well. Well, I would say you should definitely start trolling some forums or Facebook groups. You know, there's a lot of groups out there, and there's a lot of people that want to do this. I think if you just get in the right group, you might find the man of your dreams that wants to do this stuff, you know, stand out here and stare at cow poop and get bit by bugs and sweaty. It's my dream. I'm living my dream. Let's see, where else? Joplin, northeast, huh? All right. Oh, wait, northeast small town, but also skipping a jump from Joplin. Oh, Oklahoma, gotcha. Yeah. Are you all out in the flatlands, or are you still on the edge of the Ozarks there? You got some hills? We're, you know, right in the heart of the Ozarks here, so it's very diverse terrain. Hills and hollers and creek bottoms, and just, you know, that's where we're at right now. This is what we call our spring pasture, because right about there's a wet weather spring. And it doesn't flow all year, unfortunately. It might have historically, but, you know, due to poor grazing management and bad farming practices, our ground doesn't infiltrate the water like it once did, and the woody encroachment and, you know, forestation of all these areas that were once savanna. It's really changed the watershed, you know. I'm not a huge proponent of these forests. You know, some people are like, oh, don't ever cut a tree. Those make air. Well, yeah, do you think that these this grass out here makes less oxygen than those trees. It doesn't. it bioaccumulates way faster and more than the forest. And the forest doesn't actually provide a whole hell of a lot of nutrition and feed for wildlife. It does give cover to certain species, absolutely. But for a perfect example, in this area, the Ozarks, I think, pretty much in general, you know, the bobwhite quail are just almost all but extinct. I saw my first covey of bobwhite quail here 2 weeks ago. First I've ever seen in the Missouri Ozarks. Now, some people will tell you I'm crazy or lying. No, I promise I haven't seen them. And it's because their habitat's been lost, right? They need those tall, warm season native grasses. And they're, like I said, they're pretty much gone. We're very fescue dominant now, which is not a native grass. You know, I think it's from Eurasia. It's is it a good forage? Yeah, it's got some good qualities. It's got some really bad qualities too. It handles, you know, grazing pressure pretty well, but it's also highly toxic to the animals. At least the fescue, you know, like Kentucky 31, it's got endophyte in it, which is it creates an ergoalkaloid, which is very toxic to the animals. So you have to learn how to manage on it too, you know. So what do they say? Dilution is the solution for toxic plants. So, you know, try to have more diversity in your sward and you'll get through it better. Let's see what else we got. Well, I'll show you right here. Perfect. I'm gonna flip around. See this steer right here? He's looking pretty sharp. He's looking pretty sharp. But notice how he's got a bobbed tail. What do you think caused that? I'll tell you what caused that. I caused that. That was a bad grazing mistake. I screwed up. I didn't really realize what was exactly happening at the time. I was misdiagnosing what was happening, and I was getting fescue toxicity in the herd. And he's the one that showed it. Worst, he slipped a tail. That stuff cut circulation off. So he lost the circulation to his tail, and his tail switch fell off. You know, some cattle lose their feet, their ears. Like, it's a thing. It's really a thing, people. Let's see. Oh yeah, you're in the flatlands. Storms building up in the Ozarks and roll down to us. Yeah, hopefully we're gonna get a little weather here, you know. This looks like over the next few days. So let's, fingers crossed. You know, I always want more rain. I mean, what grass farmer, rancher in general doesn't, but we don't need it. It's just a luxury for us right now. And we're just in a really blessed, wonderful situation to have as much forage as we do. We have, like I said, it's ridiculous how much grass we have in front of us. So like I'm saying, the rain is just a major blessing if we get it at this point, just because I want to see my pastures grow back more and be beautiful. It looks like a golf course down there, you know. But as far as having enough feed for our animals, we got it in spades. Honestly, I might be looking for someone here in the local area come winter when they run out of grass to bring their animals over to the other side of the farm and help us get some of that forage off, because I don't want all that stuff standing next year. I got to do something with it. I got to get it off. I don't want to leave it there for too extended period of time. What you'll end up doing is shading out your growth points of your plants. And when it lodges and it starts all falling over, it just really smothers everything underneath it. Now, you know, there's an argument to be made. Well, you know, you're adding all that organic material to the surface of the soil and feeding it and da-da-da. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, maybe every once in a while, but I'm definitely not the guy that just wants to trample all my grass consistently anymore. We don't do that. As I stand in a pasture that has massive amounts of trampled grass. But, you know, again, the ultra high utilization and the ultra high stock densities, it is just a tool, guys. You got to remember that if you're going to be a total grazer or an ultra high stock density grazer, whatever you want to call it, you got to remember it's just a tool in the toolbox. You can't just always we're always going to take 90% no matter what. We're always going to take 80%, or what some guys get kind of hung up on. And you'll just ruin your cattle, right? So again, you have to be very, very adaptable. I hate to use the term because this is so different, but this is adaptive multi-paddock grazing. It's just like the culmination and like the extreme, very extreme version of that. And ultimately we grow more grass and yada yada. So yeah, what you're supposed to do is go ahead and graze half of your farm like you normally would, like AMP, right? Just your normal high intensity but high utilization, right? So taking more of the grass, not trampling at all, that's the big difference, and grazing non-selectively. And then you're gonna go back and regraze that several times throughout the year. Oh boy, I'm turning into a wet t-shirt contest here. Sorry, I'm not trying to gross you out. It's so humid and still hot. And the other side of your farm, you're gonna stockpile for the whole growing season. And that becomes your winter feed. Now, if you're predominantly warm seasons, you're gonna have such low nutrition in that grass, you're gonna have to supplement protein. That's just part of the game. But I would rather supplement, if there's really, really low protein and nutritional value in the grass, you might have to supplement 2 pounds of protein a day, right? Okay, well, so now you're $10 a day on a herd my size. That's still very, very affordable considering I would be feeding $70 in hay or $10 in protein. Take your pick. What's easier on the pocketbook. So unless you're really, really ridiculously, grossly understocked and like that all the time, and that's how you run your grazing operation, you're going to have some kind of an input. You're going to give them hay in the winter, or you're going to give them protein in the winter. You're going to give them salt and or mineral. There are a few inputs. So, if these animals had no fences and unlimited amounts of area to roam, then they wouldn't need any kind of supplementation. They would be able to be selective enough and find forages that will meet their nutritional requirements. But since we, have them in a canned ranch, the nutrition that's available here is all they have access to. And that's why we give them a little more, right? We give them just a little bit more to make sure they stay healthy and disease-free. So let's see, let me get caught up on some comments here. Live in northern Utah. Let's see. You were in the Aleutian Peninsula. What island? I used to live in Alaska. Lived there 8 years. We were just down on the Kenai Peninsula. We were actually on the road system, but we lived in a little Russian village called Ninilchik, and wonderful experience. I love Alaska. Oh yeah, we'll have land there again. We had 40 acres up there, and it's kind of bittersweet. We did sell it, but that's all right. I think the ultimate plan is, the long-term goal is to buy some very remote bush land, hopefully on one of the islands, like boat access only someday. And we'll start another YouTube channel for that. We'll haul in a sawmill and just build from the timber there and go 100% off grid. So that's hopefully someday going to happen. We'll see how that works. But Chignik Bay, okay, right on. Yeah, I didn't spend much time out in the peninsula, but I did get I did some fishing out there in Naknek and did all that crazy bumper boat crap. But yeah, I miss Alaska. Beautiful, beautiful place. It's not for the weak of heart. I worked on the North Slope of Alaska for 8 years and did a lot of exploratory. I didn't have one of those cush in town jobs, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I did a lot of exploration work and cool experience. Got to see a lot of stuff people only read about. I've seen polar bears at arm's distance, muskox, the northern lights like you just can't see them anywhere else. Driven semi-trucks on the sea ice. It's pretty wild. Those are real ice roads up there, kids. Not like ice road truckers where it's a road covered with snow. They actually build the roads up there out of ice chips. They mill them out of frozen lakes, grind up the ice, put it in huge dump trucks, and go spread it and grade it out like you would gravel. And they take water trucks and water that stuff down, and it makes a solid ice road across the tundra out to these remote locations. And then they walk the rigs out there, and a lot of times, it's a couple of year exploratory site, so the rig will actually live out there throughout the summer, and they have to put rig mats and blankets over the whole location to keep it insulated. Otherwise, the rig will sink into the tundra. Oh, you think that standby rig prices are expensive? Try and do a rig extraction. You want to talk about expensive, but yeah, those things are a couple $100,000 a day just sitting out there. Okay, enough about Alaska. Let's see. Do I miss Alaska grocery stores? Yeah, I hated the grocery prices there, and you know, just low quality food. So that's why we put up, you know, a lot of wild caught and killed meat. We get moose, you know, whether it was given to us or we killed it every year, and boy, we put up a lot of salmon. The most we ever did in one year was 495 pounds of salmon fillets. And let's put it this way, I'm still not fond of salmon. We ate so much of it over the years, you know. So I would probably trade you salmon straight across for crappie. Yeah, right? No kidding. The lower 48 grocery prices are starting to look like Alaska grocery prices were a handful of years back. This inflation is rough. I don't have to preach on that. Everybody knows that the inflation is out of control, and this crap that they're saying that, oh yeah, inflation's 10%, 20%. Bull crap. It's gone up multiple times. I know this, that, you know, it used to be really common to buy a flat of eggs, right? 5 dozen for what, $6, $7. Now they're, what is it, $12, $13 for 2.5 dozen? Crazy. Just who can afford to live on these prices these days? So we got this, speaking of that, we got this steer here. He's gonna be going into the freezer here pretty soon. So we're gonna let the weather cool. And you know, as the weather cools off for these animals, they're gonna start putting on more and more condition. That's just inherent. As the temperature drops and they start cooling down, they can eat more forage, ruminate harder and longer because they don't have to battle the heat, right? It's just like you go out and exercise really hard and it's a hot, sweaty day like I'm just soaked right now. Who the hell wants to eat? Ugh, that's the last thing I think about. So, you know, the cattle aren't much different. So as it cools down, plus the quality of the grasses are going to start coming back up because we're going to have more cool seasons start to express themselves in the sward, hence more protein, right? So yeah, there they are. You know, I mean, I'm really happy with the South Poles. They've been doing a great job for us. Are they the best breed of cattle out there for this operation? Nope. Absolutely, I do not believe that one bit. Now there might be, again, South Pole cattle in the South Pole breed that do exceptional on it, but you know, those are like every breed. They have exceptions, right? Not the rule. So it's highly advised by a lot of guys that run this system to try and get some Moshona influence into the herd. It's an African breed. They flesh easy, really, really good heat tolerance, parasite resistance, early sexual maturity, you know, all the things that you're looking for as a cattleman to be productive and profitable. So remember, the number one most important thing on a cattle operation or farming is what? Profit. If you can't be profitable, well, all of your grandstanding about climate change or improving the environment, it doesn't matter. None of that stuff's going to matter because you're not going to be able to afford to do it. So you better take and be able to stay on the land and afford, you know, a living. You better be able to make a living. So that's why the genetics, the adaptive genetics, are so ultra important. Let's see who we got here. We do have Starlink internet, but right now, believe it or not, I don't know how the feed is. Is it any good, or is it pixelated and crappy? I'm actually just on LTE. I normally can get some 5G, but right now it says LTE, so I apologize if it's grainy and jumpy. It's the best we can do with what we got at the time. So, where are we at? Man, it's getting more humid. I'm like really starting about to drop over. So, I think I'm going to take one last little pass there. Anybody got any questions about, you know, the Total Grazing Program, why we do what we do, and how it works, anything like that? Oh, for any of you that don't know, we are going to be hosting the grazing school for the Total Grazing Program. here at Tick Creek Ranch on our land here, just outside of Alton, Missouri, on the 7th and 8th of November this year, 2024. So super looking forward to it. I'm really excited about it. Jim's going to be here teaching the classes. And again, we'll do some pasture walks and talks. We're going to look at the animals, look at my pastures. He's going to tell everybody what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, how we can improve. And that's what it's all about, right? It's all about getting better. It's all about getting better. To hell with pride. I might be the best or the worst of this. I have no idea, but I'm going to probably err on the side of worst. So that's all we want here. We just want to learn, be lifelong learners about really anything we do. I try not to get a big head as much. My wife might disagree with that, but I just want to be the best at whatever it is I'm doing. I want to be the best I can be. Do I want to be the best at it in the world? Well, that would be neat, but let's be realistic. It's probably not realistic, but we're just going to do the best we can with what we got, and really just continue improving our land. So we took some soil samples, and a couple. We've taken 3 now since we've been here. We first got here early. I'm going to say early last year, spring. So it was actually December 22, but we didn't get results back till late that spring. And then once again, last fall, and we've seen some pretty tremendous improvements. So very happy, starting to see a lot more organic matter in the soil. Most areas have gone up 1% already. A lot of these things, man, they started out like at 2%. That's pretty much just dead soil, right? If you know anything about soil, that's garbage. So our NP and K, available NP and K, is getting better. We did add some amendments. We put down some agricultural lime and some liquid calcium, chelated calcium. And I would say we've seen a tremendous improvement on our land just from that, from those applications. Agritech International hooks up with that stuff. And I didn't have no contract, no, oh, you have to do this, or you have to say that. They just sent it to us. And we put it on the land. Didn't see anything happen with it last year because we were in massive drought, right? So we put it down. Didn't really get to see too many of the benefits. But boy, this year, what a huge change. Huge change. Coupled with grazing management. Yeah, you can take and get out here and just put cattle on land and run them around, intensively graze them, and do 0 inputs to the land itself. And you'll see improvements. Absolutely. No doubt about it. But if you don't want to wait 5 years, or 10 years, or however long it takes, it really depends on where you start. You might really think about giving your land a little help, a little love, right? I definitely don't just go out and start dropping a bunch of nitrogen on your ground. That's a surefire way to make sure you don't have microbes that are active. So I say, a guy that's a wealth of knowledge, and I've been watching, and I really, really like his stuff. Soilworks, Glenn over at Soilworks, he's on YouTube. Check him out. And he really focuses on bricks, right? That's measurement of sugar in the plant. And it's stuff that I kind of knew before. I mean, I'll say I knew of it. I read of it. I understood it, kind of. But I didn't really understand how totally important it is to the health of the plant. And so the higher the bricks of the plant, the higher the sugar content. The more sugar it has, the more impervious it will be to disease, bugs, and it will pump more carbon into the ground, right? Which starch, sugars, those are all carbon based, right? So the more starches you can pump into your soil, the more carbon you're going to add to your soil, the fatter the microbes are going to get, the more they're going to grow, the more they're going to proliferate, and ultimately you're going to end up with more organic matter in your soil. So check him out. Yeah, I really like him. Dr. Dykstra, him and Dr. Dykstra, they do some really good Q&A, back and forth kind of stuff. They play off each other. They're quite entertaining. So check them out if you want to know more about plant health and kind of the thresholds of bricks, like 10 bricks in your plant tissue and 14. 10 bricks tells you have a pretty healthy plant, At 14 bricks, you're pretty much impervious to disease and insects. They just won't eat the plant, and algae, fungus, and mold. They can't thrive on the plant. They won't attack it and kill it. So, I think I froze up here. Did we die? I apologize. I'm still here. Uh-oh. There's a glitch in the matrix. So, any rate, folks, I guess this is probably telling me it's time to sign out. And my phone's locked up or something happened. Let's see. Have you tried burning any of your land to try and help with the carbon in the soil? I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'm going to answer that anyway. No, we don't do that, because actually burning will volatilize whatever available carbonous matter you have at the surface. So you'll end up with a little bit of potash, yes. So it will regenerate some pretty decent growth, but I think that most of the science now is proving that that is not advised. So, at any rate, folks, I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I don't know if you can still hear me, but we'll see you on the next one. We'll do another pasture talk here really soon, and we'll just keep getting more people, hopefully answering or asking more questions, and I'll say what I can. So I'll tell you what I know. Might not be much, but you guys have a good evening, and we'll see you on the next one.